Welcome, everyone. Aloha. If I could please ask our panelists to come on up to our Religious Perspectives on Peaceful and Inclusive Societies panel. We'll go ahead and get started. While they're coming up, I'm going to invite one of our students here from BYU Hawaii to teach us a little bit about a function on your WOVA app that will help you ask questions throughout this conference. So raise your hand if you have downloaded the WOVA app on your phone. Excellent. That is wonderful. If you haven't done so already, our students can help you figure this out. This is our first year using the WOVA app for this BYU Hawaii conference. And we found that it is very useful to keeping everybody updated on the program and announcements. So please download it if you haven't already. And I'm going to ask Tika to explain a little bit here how we use the WOVA app to ask questions while the rest of our panelists are coming up here. So Tika, where are you? Here we go. Thank you. A round of applause for our BYU Hawaii student Tika here.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just gonna standing here. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoying your dinner. So I'm just gonna explain this really quick. So for you guys that haven't downloaded the app, so we have the help desk Hufa right at the back. So after the panel, if you guys need help with that, we can helping at the back. So for this Hufa app, we have this function to help you guys ask questions and also answer questions for every sessions. So for the first one, to ask questions, you just need to go click the agenda, and then you can choose the session that you're interested in, and then you click the Q&A button, and after that you can put your questions there. And the next. Yeah, that's all. It's pretty simple. Just click the button that shows Q&A and then drop your questions there. And then, and then for answer the okay. It's good. Actually, it's pretty similar to answer the questions. So for answer the question, it's the same thing. So at the dashboard, you can see the session Q&A, and then just click that one, and then click the session that you're interested in to answer the question there. And then you're gonna click the question and just drop your answers at the chat box. So yeah, it's pretty simple. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. I just want to thank Elder Strong for his wonderful remarks tonight, for setting the tone for this conference, and for him being here with his lovely wife from the Philippines. And we're so grateful that all of you have gathered with us for this wonderful conference. We're looking forward to getting to know each other and to having some wonderful dialogue over the next few days. I am the moderator for this panel on religious perspectives on peaceful and inclusive societies. And I'd like to introduce our panelists as our last one walks up here to the stand. We have three wonderful panelists with us this evening. The first is Reverend Father Jerome Secillano, Executive Secretary of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines. The next is Deepika Singh, who's the Deputy Secretary General of Religions for Peace. And the third is Bishop Efraim Tendero, who's a Global Ambassador and former Secretary General of the World Evangelical Alliance, also from the Philippines. So I'm going to ask Reverend Secillano if you'll start first, and then we'll have Deepika, and then we will end with Bishop Tendero. Thank you so much.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. I greet you happy Easter. I would like to express my deep gratitude to the Latter-day Saints for this invitation. Be it known that I am honored and overjoyed as well to come to Hawaii for the first time. I am the first speaker in our group assigned to dwell on the religious perspectives for peaceful and inclusive societies. I am hoping that this will set the tone for an honest, thorough, and open-minded discussion on the theme. The theme appears to be easy, but it is not. It is easy because, as religious, we are supposed to be harbingers of peace and promoters of inclusivity. But it is complicated because, in reality, we are sometimes accused of the opposite. We are called bigots, selfish, self-centered, intolerant, archaic, outdated, irrational, stupid, and many other uncharitable names simply because there are issues where our stand are simply different from our accusers. For context, let me give you a picture of my job as the Executive Secretary of the Episcopal Commission on Public Affairs of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines. Our office serves as a liaison of the bishops to government offices, private sector, and other cause-oriented groups. As a secretary, I make sure that there is an avenue for dialogue between the bishops and those sectors if there are issues that concern both. We are also sometimes tasked to submit position papers on proposed policy legislations done by both chambers of Congress, namely the House of Representatives and the Senate. Many a times, our positions do not agree with these legislations. Theirs are more liberal and progressive, while ours are rooted in the gospel and the doctrines of the church. Because of this seemingly divergent stand, name-calling happens. In fact, in one of the conferences I attended as a speaker, I was asked for my reaction during the open forum about the supposed public belief that the Catholic Church is hindering the progress of our nation. I will repeat. We were accused that the Catholic Church is hindering the progress of our nation. I was dismayed, but I answered it with firmness and honesty that the Catholic Church may be opposed to some public policies, but our opposition is pursuant to our belief and conviction that such policies are not the most effective ways to bring progress to our people. At the very least, they may even lead to moral degradation and the corruption of our society. We are opposed to the legalization of abortion, divorce, death penalty, same-sex union. We are also against political dynasty, corruption, and political patronage. We also oppose vote buying and the commodification of our people. We do not mind being criticized for our stand and advocacies, but at the core of the issue is the thought that the church is inimical and essentially closed to her own set of doctrines, thereby discriminating against those who do not share our belief. The church is, of course, against all forms of discrimination. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, number 1935, says, and I quote, "The equality of men rests essentially on their dignity as persons and the rights that flow from them. Every form of social or cultural discrimination in fundamental personal rights on the grounds of sex, race, color, social conditions, language, or religion must be curbed and eradicated as incompatible with God's design. End of quote. Let it be emphasized that the Catholic Church adheres to the natural law, which is the most fundamental basis of man's rights. The Catechism, for its part, essentially recognizes the natural rights of man that flow from his or her being, God's creation. The understanding of the foregoing statement is supposed to clarify the role of the Church in the socio-political discourse, but a lot, I think, find the notion of natural law quite abstract, that it couldn't be used as an effective basis for formulating policies to solve societal problems or resolve social issues. This divergent approach to understanding and solving issues and problems casts the Church in the negative light. For our critics, we are unrealistic, totally detached from the world, hence should just refrain from meddling in societal affairs and just stick to proclaiming the gospel. But that is exactly what the Church is doing. Proclaim the gospel, the word of God, the word of truth. Our proclamation doesn't hinge on what the public expects, nor is it contingent on political correctness or social constructs. We proclaim what we believe, and in this manner, we proclaim the truth. Saint Augustine discusses truth and being as predicates that are instantiated in a primary and privileged way in God, and instantiated in a derivative way in God's creation. As a consequence, knowledge of created truth and being instantiated in has to make explicit this relation to its divine origin, which in Augustine's work itself and in the Augustinian tradition frequently takes the form of an assent to God. Simply put, we cannot proclaim something that is opposed to God or His divine teaching. Our task as religious is to amplify in the world God's truth, and not merely the truth as constructed by society. But in a world defined by pluralism, the Church acknowledges that we do not have preeminence in the realm of sciences, politics, and economics. Therefore, we cannot just insist on divine or religious truths as the ultimate and definitive basis for constructing policies and strategies for the development of our people, which essentially require eclectic approaches. By acknowledging our limitations, we are essentially saying that we are not causing the lack of progress in our country, but we are simply fulfilling the work incumbent upon us as religious, and that we both have the right and the freedom to do it. Apart from acknowledging our limitations, we are also open to dialogue with sectors who might misconstrue our stand on many issues. Openness to listening to each other's side always gives latitude for understanding. Oftentimes, it becomes the surest way for future collaboration and engagement on many fronts. As a church, we also do not condemn, but only has the utmost respect for these sectors who may not share our views. We do not have the monopoly of ideas. In fulfilling our task, we use moral suasion, which basically just gives the other the option to consider our views and not to force or to condemn them if they do not. Respect, though, doesn't mean toleration. In the Bible story of a woman caught committing adultery, Jesus showed us how not to condemn when he told the woman to go and sin no more after not being stoned to death by the angry mob. Jesus did a hushed reprimand to the woman while avoiding any tinge of condemnation. The woman quietly left, bringing with her that fatherly exhortation not to fall back into sin. While Jesus allowed the woman to live, he was at the same time firm in his resolve to exhort her not to sin again. Did the woman not sin again? Nobody knows. The point is, by fulfilling our prophetic function, we are simply telling the world what ought to be done based on our understanding of truth as transcendent. Still, we never entertain the idea that the public will absolutely accept that truth. The story of Zacchaeus is different. Jesus appeared to have even tolerated the former for his corrupt ways by wanting to visit his house. Of course, Jesus did not tolerate him, but the initiative to change and accept Jesus and his teachings came from Zacchaeus himself. He wasn't told what to do, but he volunteered to pay back 4 times over whatever he owed from anyone. The conversion must have been occasioned when Zacchaeus heard about Jesus and was completely enamored with his teachings. The encounter between them is a life-changing encounter. It was indeed a moment of grace in all likelihood. That is also what we envision. That through our prophetic mission, people will be enamored with the truth that is freely accepted and not forced. The Catholic Church in the Philippines, after all, is not an enemy of progress, peace, and inclusivity. From our perspective, though, we must first consider, among all other factors, our understanding and acceptance of the truth. From it comes the work of fostering fraternity and social harmony, pursue justice, and inspire solidarity. Defend the rights, especially of the poor and the marginalized. Contribute to the formulation of policies at the service of the person. Policies that provide solutions, ensuring the security and respect for the rights and dignity of all. A policy concerned for the good of one's own country. Our stand on issues sometimes may not sit well with others. That doesn't diminish, though, our love and concern for our country and our people. It is a love that mirrors the love of Christ for the poor and those in the margins of society. The Church embraces the challenge to serve in the same breath that she embraces everyone to be under her care. To end this intervention, let me share with you an anecdote about an archbishop who addressed the LGBT community in the archdiocese. He said, and I quote, "All of you are welcome in the church. Church's doors are open for you, but once inside the church, do not change God for you." Truth, my dear friends, brothers and sisters, should be at the service of peaceful and inclusive societies. Thank you.
esteemed religious and faith leaders, distinguished delegates, and the wonderful volunteers and students, warm greetings to all of you. It is truly an honor to join this greatly important convening and intersection of academia, diplomacy, faith, and public service, united by a common purpose to safeguard and promote human dignity and peaceful, inclusive societies across Southeast Asia and beyond. On behalf of Religions of Peace, one of the world's largest and most represented multi-religious movements, I bring you greetings from a family of global, regional, national, and local interreligious councils and networks of women of faith and youth present over 90 countries. Allow me to take this opportunity to express our profound appreciation for BYU and the vision of, and the leadership of Malaysia as the 2025 ASEAN Chair for placing inclusivity and sustainability at the heart of the regional agenda. These themes demand from us not only policy alignment, but a renewed ethical and spiritual commitment to shared human flourishing rooted in the sacred. We're living through a time of profound disruption. The world faces multiple overlapping crises, entrenched conflicts like those in Myanmar, Gaza, Haiti, Sudan, and Ukraine, just to name a few. The existential threat of climate change, the ever-growing danger of nuclear annihilation, deepening inequalities, and the erosion of universal rights and freedoms. More than ever, the ideas of the post-war global order, human rights, equality, rule of law are critical. However, these cannot be fully realized without human dignity that acknowledges the inherent worth and value of each and every person. Dignity, therefore, is just not legal recognition, it is an existential requirement. The principle of human dignity, social equity, and justice are not new. They are deeply embedded across the world's religion and faith tradition. Across Southeast Asia and beyond, religion is not a peripheral force. It is an enduring and essential foundation of identity, values, and public life. The various sacred teachings in different religions offers profound moral guidance in times of uncertainty, but they must not remain confined to scriptures, prayers, rites, and rituals. To reclaim dignity, advance peace, and ensure social cohesion, they must be activated through interreligious, intersectorial, and intergenerational action. This is at the very heart of the work of the organization I serve. Since its very founding, Religions of Peace has been an unwavering advocate of multi-religious collaboration for peace. This commitment stems from a profound conviction that peace is possible when faith communities cooperate effectively to advance common action on deeply held and widely shared concerns. It also firmly believes that peace is not merely the absence of war or conflict, but a positive vision to advance human dignity and shared well-being in harmony with the earth. Our founders recognized that lasting peace cannot be achieved through political or economic means alone. It requires a deeper moral, ethical, and spiritual transformation, one that acknowledges that the shared humanity and inherent dignity of all. And for over 50 years, Religions for Peace has been advancing multi-religious, intersectorial, and intergenerational collaboration and action to address the world's most pressing issues and advance the common good. And we do so with one guiding conviction: shared human flourishing is only possible when peace, dignity, and inclusion are realized for everyone and everywhere. Through our work, we have seen how religious and faith communities are woven into the fabric of society and are thus uniquely positioned to respond to our interconnected challenges. Their influence is real, their reach is vast, and their role is indispensable. In Southeast Asia, as in many parts of the world, religions have played a critical role in building peaceful and inclusive societies. These engagements have been deep, responsive, and locally led, but with international impact. Allow me to share an illustrative example of how religions inspire and mobilize religious communities to advance peace and social cohesion through multi-religious collaboration. In September 2013, Metila in Myanmar was bracing for potential intercommunal violence. Fear-mongering nationalist groups took to Facebook and Twitter to spread rumors of an imminent attack. Fearing that these rumors could instigate violence, Buddhist and Muslim leaders of Metila came together and stepped into action. They began sharing known facts and providing regular updates on the situation. In addition, inspirational religious messages were disseminated to not only dispel fears, but foster trust and understanding and build bridges across different religions and ethnic groups. Due to these messages coming from trusted sources, Metila was able to avoid intercommunal violence fueled by rumors and fanned by fears. This locally led action went on to be an inspiration for replication in Europe and other places. Our experience has shown us that for religion to have an impact on peace, we must have intra and interfaith dialogues, and these dialogues must be translated into actions. We know that it is not enough to call for peace. We must build the ethical and institutional architecture that sustain it. That is why we have initiated the Tokyo Peace process, under which we will hold the third Tokyo Peace Roundtable in July of this year, convening diverse religious leaders from conflict-affected countries, including Myanmar, Ukraine, Russia, Israel, and Palestine, to engage in dialogue and co-develop action framework for peace and reconciliation. It is not only in the present that religion has played a role in peace building and social cohesion. Let us go back in time and consider the case of Sierra Leone. During the armed conflict that started in 1991, Muslim and Christian religious leaders of the Interreligious Council of Sierra Leone stepped in to try to stop the brutal war that was ravaging the country. The Interreligious Council succeeded in negotiating the release of more than 50 children who had been abducted by the rebel forces. Winning the trust of both the warring parties, they played a very critical role in mediating between the government and the rebel forces. The council went on to work directly with victims and perpetrators, facilitating truth-telling and implementing restorative justice initiative. Both President Carver and the then United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan acknowledged the vital role that the Interreligious Council of Sierra Leone played in the Lomé peace talk. Even today, through the Interreligious Council of Sierra Leone, Christian and Muslim leaders continue to foster dialogue, rebuild trust, and promote social cohesion in Sierra Leone. These are not just symbolic actions. They are concrete, real-life responses to real-life crises, centered around local realities and grounded in shared spiritual and ethical values. With that, allow me to offer 4 guiding insights based on our ongoing work in Southeast Asia and globally. First, peace-building efforts must be participatory and inclusive. It is not enough to convene religious leaders at the top. Real transformation requires investing in the leadership of those at the margins, especially women and youth. Across Southeast Asia, young people are demonstrating that they are not merely the future, they are also the present. Their leadership in peace building, climate action, human rights, and interfaith dialogue must be recognized and supported. Second, inclusion must be intentional. Too often, inclusion is framed as a moral ideal rather than a structural requirement. True inclusion means embedded interfaith and intergenerational representation in decision-making, integrating theological literacy into policy formation, and ensuring that spiritual perspectives shape, not just respond to development agendas. Third, human dignity must be at the center of policy and practice. Dignity is not negotiable. It is the inherent worth of every human being, affirmed by every major religion and faith tradition. Our work as religious and faith communities must be to uphold this dignity, whether in peace building, education, health, migration, or climate resilience. Fourth, diverse faith traditions must come together to work for peace and social cohesion, in collaboration with other sectors of society. Today, there is an increasing recognition that to address the ever-growing and evolving challenges faced by the human family requires unprecedented collaboration across cultures, people, and sectors. Multi-religious cooperation can powerfully leverage the existing social, spiritual, and moral assets of the religious communities, and its efforts can be more efficient and sustainable than individual religious groups acting alone. We also know that for more efficient and effective outcomes, we need to partner with other actors, including governments, multilaterals, and the private sectors. The future of Southeast Asia and that of the broader international community depends on our ability and dedication to build bridges across faiths, sectors, borders, and generations. We all need to stand ready to work together and in partnership with regional bodies, national governments, religious and faith institutions, academia, and civil society to realize a vision of shared human flourishing. So what must we as religious and faith actors, thought leaders and policymakers do to visualize this vision? We must champion interfaith and intellectual collaboration, create platform for youth and women of faith to lead, invest in faith-sensitive and locally led humanitarian responses, advocate for inclusive multilateralism, and finally, we must embody the values we wish to see in the world. In conclusion, the story of Southeast Asia region is one of extraordinary pluralism. Let us not treat this diversity as a challenge to be managed, but as a gift to be embraced. Let us remember, each of our religion calls upon us not just to tolerate one another, but it calls us to respect and love each other. And love, in its highest form, is expressed through action. May our actions, rooted in our deepest values and common humanity, give rise to a region where peace is not the exception, but the norm, where inclusion is not inspirational, but lived, and where every person can thrive and flourish with dignity, purpose, and hope. Thank you.
I just whispered to her that you said everything that I needed to say. I'm here to present about the evangelical theology and religious freedom as foundations for peace and inclusive societies in Asia. Thank you for the opportunity for me to share this message to you tonight. I come before you as a peace-building advocate and as a follower of Jesus the Galilean. My journey has been shaped not only by theological reflection, but also by real encounters with communities wounded by conflict, injustice, and exclusion. Southeast Asia is home to rich religious diversity. Our region is a vibrant mosaic of cultures and faith, yet this richness often becomes flashpoint of misunderstanding, mistrust, and at times violence. The future of peaceful and inclusive societies in Southeast Asia depends greatly on how religious communities engage with one another, whether we build bridges of understanding or walls of division. I believe that evangelical theology, when rooted in the life and teachings of Jesus, has something essential to offer. And I believe that religious freedom is not merely a legal principle. It is a sacred responsibility that enables peace to flourish. Evangelical theology at its best begins with Jesus. His message was not just about personal salvation, but about the arrival of a kingdom marked by peace, justice, and reconciliation. In Luke chapter 4, Jesus stood before the synagogue and declared good news to the poor, freedom for the oppressed, and healing for the broken. In the Sermon on the Mount, he called his followers, as he was sitting around there, to love their enemies, to bless those who curse them, and to break the cycle of revenge with radical mercy. This ethic of nonviolent love challenges the very foundations of tribalism and retaliation that continue to plague many societies today. The Bible's vision of peace is not shallow. In fact, we would say that it's not simply an absence of violence, as you have mentioned earlier. The word shalom in Hebrew and irene in Greek speaks of something much deeper, and I would say it talks about wholeness, harmony, and well-being in every part of life. It is spiritual peace with God, relational peace with one another, economic justice for the vulnerable, and care for the creation. Evangelicals are called to pursue this holistic peace as a reflection of the gospel. Reconciliation, therefore, is not a side task. It is central to our mission. As the Apostle Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 5, God entrusted us with this ministry of reconciliation. We are called not just to proclaim forgiveness, but to live it. In a world fractured by political divisions, historical trauma, and social injustice, evangelicals must be agents of healing. We are invited to step into the broken spaces, not as conquerors, but as servants, not with pride, but with humility. This calling to peace begins with the local church. I have seen ordinary congregations become extraordinary agents of change. Churches that have hosted trauma healing sessions, participated in interfaith dialogue, and supported inclusive economic development. When churches live out the inclusive and sacrificial love of Jesus, they become visible signs of the kingdom of God. But for this to happen, there must be freedom. Religious freedom is rooted in the dignity of every person, as you have said. And Scripture tells us that all people are created in the image of God. That image includes the freedom to think, to choose, to believe, and to worship. Conscience is sacred. Faith cannot be forced. It must be freely embraced. Where religious freedom is respected, peace has greater chance to grow. Communities are more likely to coexist, collaborate, and thrive. When faith is suppressed, fear takes place. When people are persecuted for their beliefs, resentment builds. But where faith communities are free to express themselves without coercion or discrimination, trust becomes possible. As evangelicals, we defend religious freedom for all people, not only for ourselves. We have the World Evangelical Alliance Religious Freedom Advocacy Team in the picture here. You know, when faith, the gospel, as I've said, cannot flourish in an environment of fear or domination. It grows best in an atmosphere of freedom, where people can encounter Christ through love and truth, not pressure or force. I have seen the power of this witness firsthand through the work of Peace Builders Community Incorporated. They are based in Mindanao. This is a Mennonite-inspired evangelical peace organization that has been working in the Philippines. Since 2006, PBCI, or Peace Builders Community Incorporated, has engaged in grassroots peace building among Muslim, Christian, and indigenous communities in conflict-affected regions in Mindanao. After the signing of the Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro in 2014, Peace Builders Community deepened its engagement with the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. With deep respect for Islamic traditions, they built relationships with Moro leaders, creating space for interfaith solidarity and mutual understanding. They facilitated dialogues between evangelical Christians and Muslim leaders. They supported local cooperatives that promoted economic empowerment. They worked with churches to teach theological peace education and to address deep-rooted prejudices, particularly Islamophobia. As a result, attitudes began to shift and suspicion gave way to solidarity. Many evangelicals who once viewed their Muslim neighbors with fear began to see them as fellow image bearers of God. These efforts complemented the official peace process, not by imposing theology, but by embodying it. I remember one particular moment in Cotabato during a peace dialogue. A Muslim imam turned to evangelical team and said, "You do not just preach peace to us, but your actions show us peace. That is your dawah." For us, that was a sacred affirmation. It showed that living out the peace of Christ can build bridges where theology alone once built walls. Now, my own journey as a peace builder has also been marked by sacred encounters that shaped my understanding of what it means to follow Christ in a public square. This picture was taken in July 4, 2008. I walked into Camp Darapanan. Now, what is Camp Darapanan? This is the main headquarters of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. During that time, I was the national director of the Philippine Council of Evangelical Churches. I came there not just as a religious leader, but as a fellow Filipino and a servant of Christ. When I was invited by the Peace Builders Community Incorporated to go there to lead a peace delegation of evangelical pastors and Muslims, I hesitated. Why? Because I remembered that the commanding general of the Philippine Marines was held as a hostage for 1 month in that camp. What will happen to me if I go there? Well, as you know, I had quite a good excuse. I told my friend, my bosom, the president of PBCI is my bosom friend, and I sent back my response to him, let me pray about it, and let me ask my wife. You know, husbands, let's ask our wives. And my dear wife had a very good and action as well as response. She was sharp and wise. You know what she said? If you don't want to go, don't use me as an excuse. Wow. Well, that night, I had to really ask God, am I really willing to lay down my comfort and security for the sake of peace? Am I willing to lay down even my life? Should I go there or not? And God gave me the resolve to lead the peace delegation. That day, we sat in dialogue with Chairman Muhagher Iqbal and his fellow negotiators. Now, the one in blue shirt beside me is Chairman Muhagher Iqbal. He is the chairman of the peace panel for the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. He shared the Bangsamoro narrative, a story of centuries of marginalization, broken promises, and enduring hope for dignity and self-determination. Datu Attorney Mike Mastura, on my part rather, I shared my perspective of Christian Filipinos. Actually, I was asked, why did you come here? Are you here sent by the government? I said, no, I did not come sent by the government. I'm here as a Christian bishop, followers of Jesus, the Prince of Peace, who says, blessed are the peacemakers. And it was Datu Mastura who says, if that is the reason, please come and let's talk. So I shared my perspective of Christian Filipinos, shaped by national unity, but often blind to the wounds of our Muslim brothers and sisters. Datu Mike Mastura, a member of the MILF Peace Panel, presented historical records and legal arguments with clarity and conviction. But what I remember most was not frustration. It was their resolve. They want to have a peaceful future, not their surrender. It was their vision to have peace. I listened. I lamented. I repented of our indifference as evangelicals and as a nation. And I affirmed, we must become peacemakers. This is not an optional calling. It is the path of Christ. That encounter marked a turning point in my journey. From that time, for several years, Mohagher Iqbal and I were encouraging one another through text messages to pursue peace. One time he says, yes, we need to pursue this. This is the only moral way forward. And so later, many years later, in March 27, 2014, I stood in the Malacanang Palace, like the White House of the Philippines, as the comprehensive agreement of the Bangsamoro was signed. Government officials and former rebels sat together, pen in hand, peace within reach. In that freedom garden, people who had once faced each other through the barrel of the rifle now extended hands of reconciliation. And the Spirit of God was present at that moment. Tears flowed, not just because the agreement itself, but because of what it signified, that peace is possible, that justice can be pursued without violence, that when faith communities are rooted in love, they can help heal nations. So from Camp Darapanan to Malacanang, I witnessed the slow but steady work of peace made possible by those willing to listen, to risk, and to love. As an evangelical bishop, I continue to believe with this position with all of my heart. Peacemaking is a gospel imperative. Jesus did not call us to win arguments. He called us to love courageously, to confront injustice, and to walk humbly with those who suffer. Religious freedom, interfaith respect, and just peace are not just good ideas. They are sacred responsibilities. They lie at the very heart of what it means to follow Christ in Southeast Asia and beyond. So today, I invite you not just to admire peace, but to embody it. Not just to talk about religious freedom, but to protect it. Not just to love your neighbors when it is easy, but to stand with them when it is difficult. May we be more than peace lovers. May we become peacemakers. Thank you for receiving these words, and may we walk together in the way of Jesus, the way of justice, reconciliation, and shalom. God bless you.
Thank you all very much. We appreciated your remarks this evening. I want to see if there are any remarks or opportunities for engagement from you all in the audience this evening. If you do, please raise your hand and we'll have someone come around with the microphone. Blythe, do we have a microphone to take around? Okay, great. I think we have, is that someone in the back? Okay, great. Any comments? I'll let this sit in for a minute. Well, thank you all very much, and we're deeply grateful for the wonderful beginning to our conference this evening with these wonderful remarks. You have indeed set the tone for, I think, what will be a wonderful 3 days of engagement on these issues. And I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of your comments this evening. We want to take a group photo before we leave this evening. So if we could please just stay for a moment, and we're going to get some instructions from our photographer so that we can get a photograph of all of us this evening before we head back to the hotel. I just want to remind you that tomorrow morning there is breakfast available starting at 7 o'clock at the hotel, and then we will have our students bring you over to the conference location here at BYU Hawaii with shuttles meeting in the hotel lobby at about 8:15. The opening session will be at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So please remember that this evening and set your alarms for those of you coming from different time zones so that we'll be sure and have you join us tomorrow morning. If we could get the photographer and Blythe to give us some instructions on how you'd like us to go about the group photo this evening, we'll proceed in that direction. Thank you so much. Can we have a final round of applause for our wonderful panelists tonight?
Hi there. So for the photo, the group photo, we will have it at the back. We'll have some chairs for the key members